Oh, hi everyone, and welcome to this week's The Curse of Strahd! Welcome on time, Crimson Rosebud. And Avery, it's been so long since we've seen you, or spoken to you. Welcome all. Buki, thank you for coming in with the cheer, with the biddies there. I'm seeing the theme, Buki 1717 with the 17-bit cheers. I see what's going on here. I've seen. Welcome. As you can see, a couple of our members are missing this week, but that does not stop us from doing something rather interesting, especially as Talia had some interesting events happen last week as well. So we may address a little bit of that too. Before we go around and say hello to everyone, please check out all of this. The bot is currently putting a ton of stuff in the doohickamajigger. Please go and check all of that out. I think actually possibly the tweet, now that I think about it, might be wrong, but hey, the rest of it's all good. So go and check it out. Checking it out. Yeah, no, that is wrong. The tweet is actually that tweet. Okay, that's something I need to do manually. Got it. Great. Welcome everyone. Let's go around and say hello to everyone. Why don't we start with the wonderful A. Kelly Lane.
Oh, hi guys. I'm Kelly, A. Kelly Lane on Twitter. You can find me here a lot. And I play Talia, who's our paladin. Apparently has definitely established her role as group mum after the fact that since she was gone last week, I hear that they actually went backwards instead of forwards. So look forward to getting to watching that and getting the recap of that another day.
Bob is ashamed.
It was incredible. Truly incredible.
I leave you guys alone for 5 minutes!
Yeah. Next, we have Alice. Oh, hi, Alice.
Oh, hi. I'm Alice, or White Rabbit Pick on Twitter. I play Bob, who is easily led by two very mischievous halflings. He's used to sort of being a bodyguard, almost like for Talia, before they came to Barovia. And he'll do anything to protect her, but she wasn't there last week. And he knew he had to protect these two halflings, but my goodness, did they encourage the more mischievous things to happen last week.
Well, we're actually not going to dive straight back into that, as at the beginning of last episode, Talia mysteriously passed out. Talia, in your eyes, it wasn't like some cinematic thing. It wasn't as though mist rolled over you or things fell away and then there was mist. It's just one moment you were walking, and the next moment, bam, you're surrounded by mist. Like when you were travelling here to the Amber Temple. An image.
And that.
Go on.
No, I was at the. Go, you go.
Okay. An image starts to form in the mist as though it is made out of the mist. Do you remember the time your mother got really angry with you?
Oh yeah. It was one of the first times that I actually kind of wandered off alone. So I was probably like 12 or 13, and she told me that I couldn't go to the marketplace that day because there wasn't anyone available to go with me. And the second she kind of went off to handle something else, I left. And of course, when I came back, all hell broke loose at home.
It's the market that begins to form before you. You remember the scolding, but do you remember how the market looked that day?
It was actually kind of like a magical place. I had never really been without hindrance, without people with me. And so when I got there and had this freedom to roam in between the stalls and get lost, kind of like traveling in between the trees or something, it just seemed like alive and mystical.
Okay, and how old were you?
Like 13.
Like 13. So, as you are wandering through this maze, is there anything in particular that would have caught your eye? This is almost a perfect replica of it. There is no mist anymore, as the mist solidifies into this market of jumbling people and almost waves of noise and lulls, and then activity all around.
There was one stall that day that there was a man behind the counter, and unlike a lot of the other stalls that were kind of selling jewelry or sweets or scarves and silks, he was selling crystals and pendants, and things that had a magical quality. And Talia remembers having been nervous by this stall and this man, but intrigued at the same time. And she knew it was the kind of thing her mother would not allow her to get anywhere near. And she sees that same stall now and some of these same objects.
The what do you call the marketeer? Tradesman? Merchant. The merchant is sometimes it takes me a minute, okay. The merchant is sitting alone, smoking a long pipe. Think, Gandalf length pipe. He wears a stained purple jerkin with lines of gold which are long faded, and a tall hat of similar design. Some small half-moon spectacles sit on his gnarled nose, and he wears a grey moustache. Truly grey, not white or pale ginger, as quite often you see facial hair on an older man. It's silver. Platinum, even.
And I think Talia just simply kind of walks to the stall, and the man can almost see like her fingers wanting to reach out and touch things, but she's not doing so. She's kind of just looking as kind of getting like, even though she's a little older, even almost like a child does, where they get as kind of as close as possible to something without touching it, to look at it and inspect it, and then backing away. I don't know what's harder to take seriously, the pen or the glasses on the very tip of the nose.
Hello, little girl. You are interested in magic, right?
Yeah. I've seen some magics at the temple, but I haven't gotten to see magics with these kinds of things.
The question was rhetorical, of course. You are interested in magic, otherwise you wouldn't be looking at my stall. Tell me, which of these stones is truly magical, and which are cut glass for a hawker? Don't tell anyone, it's our little secret.
And she goes through and kind of returns to her inspection. And she picks out the stone that is actually the least perfect. So it's probably a deep emerald color, but it's murky on the inside, and it has rough edges on the outside. And she's like, maybe this one? I don't know.
Yes. That's right. Look into the gem, Talia.
Okay.
Looking into the gem, you described it as green. It's nearly identical to the color of the flame that you saw as an adult. Although, of course, the child you wouldn't remember this, but at the moment you are dreaming, it's more of a nagging thought at the back of your mind. The flame that the original Vistani band that brought you into Barovia first told you the story of Strahd around, not naming him at the time.
What do you see?
I see a dirt road, but it's not really a road, it's just like wagon tracks through the woods and the trees. I see people in all sorts of colors traveling down the path. It's hard to say, it's hard to see through the fog.
A dirt road, colourful people, and fog. It would be wise for you to avoid that road if you can.
But why?
There is a man walking down the road. The man wears a paladin's armor. Older you knows him now. He resembles some of your features. How would the child Talia have reacted to this?
She has seen sketches of her father in her mother's journals, which is why the older Talia recognized him to begin with. And but this would be the first time she would see anything beyond those sketches. But first, she doesn't really believe it. Like, it's just a man walking down the road. But she wants to believe. And through that want to believe, she convinces herself that this is a vision of her father. And she gets excited thinking it's happening now. She has a hard time in this kind of adolescent stage figuring out if it was from before, if it's a vision of the past, or if it's a glimpse into the current time.
As the man walks, the armor drops away. For a moment, his muscles bulge. He gains height and hair, before turning, snarling, and running into the forest on all fours.
And the young Talia jumps back. She goes, I don't like that very much. I definitely want to avoid that road, and I think your gems, sir, are cursed or telling bad stories or something.
Well now, Talia, it turns out the stone that you selected is a stone which allows access to divination. Like it or not, the stone tells truths. Or at least, partial truths.
If it's just a partial truth, then it can't be the truth now, can it?
You are young. Have you ever looked through a window without being able to hear? You can still see what is happening. Sometimes that's enough to make a judgment of what's going on. You see a knife drawn, for example.
Yeah, but sometimes when you look through the window and you can't hear, you don't realize that the knife is just to make a sandwich.
In one fluid movement, he casts his hand towards another part of the table, and a knife appears, slamming between the fingers of a young child trying to snag a gem.
Well, that wasn't... that. She jumps back and she's like,
Get out of here, you little thief! I see you!
well, you didn't have to do that.
I'm really sorry. I didn't go too near it. I promise.
I've seen your little fingers trying to snag my gems, and I saw you taking that apple yesterday as well. Get out of here, before I call the guards.
You didn't see anything, old man. Like, you see this sort of young boy quickly morph into a tabaxi and run.
That was really rude. I don't think I want to be here anymore. What day?
The stones speak the truth, Talia. Even if you can't avoid that road, be cautious and remember this warning.
Okay. But you watch where you're throwing knives at people. You're the kind of reason that I'm not supposed to be here.
Run along now, Talia. Go and check the little creature is okay.
And she kind of turns on her heels very kind of smartly. And she starts off kind of running after the small, normal-sized tabaxi.
Small, around 9 years old.
The tiny tabaxi. And at first she's like starts to kind of run, and then she like remembers herself and returns to kind of like a polite, ladylike pace, and starts looking around to see if she can spot ears or a tail in the crowd, kind of crouching low, looking between the stalls, inspecting all the hiding places.
As you walk away from the stall, a shadow passes overhead, only for a moment. Must have been a cloud covering the sun for just a moment.
You will see this young tabaxi sort of looking a bit in a huff more than anything, but is marching through, and he starts just weaving through the people, and as he does, you see him slowly morph and twist into what looks to be a very young elf. And you can see him eyeing up, looking at another stool where there seems to be some bread and cheese and some fruit. And he's just walking past, and he does almost laps of this thing. He's walking backwards and forwards to trying to see how busy it is.
And I think Talia has kind of just barely managed to keep an eye on him and has been kind of almost struggling. And when she sees them shift again, she's like, oh, now that's actual magic right there. Has to be. And while she sees them kind of eyeing the food, she kind of walks right up to that particular stall and places down like a handful of coins and grabs some apples and cheese and like a loaf of bread like bigger than her face.
Like, he's watching you from the side. He's not in front of the store. He's sort of at the side, like...
Oh there. You're Talia, aren't you?
Oh, yes.
Mayor Darkin's little girl.
Yeah.
We graciously accept your patronage, Miss Darkin.
You're welcome, of course. Don't, maybe not tell my mom that I was here.
Of course not.
Is this someone that Talia recognizes, or...?
This is merely a woman from the village. But
She's like,
it is a village. Villages are small. You don't go long without knowing everyone. Funny that, actually. You've never seen that magic stall before.
and this moment, it kind of strikes Talia, and she looks back to see if she can still see the stall from where she is. Is there even a space where it once was, or is it just like the stalls have come back together?
You can see the stall that is normally there in its place. There is a stall selling pots, urns, chamber pots, and other claywares.
And she just kind of, oh no, that's not okay. Thank you for your fine foods, ma'am.
Please, yes, help yourself. And she turns and starts speaking to a younger assistant, who shortly afterwards goes running.
Oh crap! Okay, thanks. Bye. And she starts to walk away, but she kind of turns over her shoulder, looking at the now young elf. And she kind of like breaks this loaf of bread in half and kind of like.
And he looks very, very confused. He's like, and very slowly, like, he sort of starts to walk towards you, checking around, like, is this a trap? Or is, what is happening? And he's like, is that for me?
Yeah, do you want some?
Yes, please. I would like some.
Here. And she hands him like half the loaf of bread and takes an apple out of her pocket from that she also purchased and hands it over.
He snatches that up and just starts cramming it into his face. Like, he is just pushing as fast as he can. And as soon as he finishes the bread, he's looking at you, looking at the bread and just the crumbs all over his face and down his front. I'm sorry.
Do you perhaps know anywhere I can kind of hide out? I think my mom might be coming to look for me, and I need to not be here.
Hide out?
Yeah, I don't know. Somewhere we can go to not be in the middle of the market square when my mom shows up.
Both of you hear the sound of chainmail. Chainmail on the bodies of people running.
I don't know if that's for you or me. Either way, it's not good. And he grabs your arm and he starts dragging you in between the groups of people. And, like, he forgets you're that much taller, so you'll have to duck and weave. And he starts pulling you, like, ducking under people's legs when he has to, or under people's arms like baskets that are being carried. He's like, "Come on, quickly!" and they move fast.
And I imagine while this is happening, Talia has probably never duck and weaved through a crowd in her life. So she probably like runs into a stall and like knocks over a basket display, and like you hear a couple people in the crowd go, "Ah!"
And he keeps dragging you. And if there's like an alleyway or just something where it looks like one of those alleyways that is used to store things from the merchant, so it's almost like behind one of the stalls, he's literally just gonna very roughly almost push you over the side of the barrels and jump behind them and sit down really close and just look at you like.
And she kind of like flops over these barrels at first, and you kind of hear a pretty firm thud as she hits the ground, and she's just like, oh, okay.
Talia, can you roll me a D100, please? We've hit 10 retweets.
Oh.
We're doing things a little differently this week.
And Bob sort of leans in. Like, he'll wait to hear if the guards run past.
Uh-oh.
Can you please roll me a D6, Talia? The barrels that you must be hiding behind must be full of dye or similar. For as you hit the mud, you sit back up, and you're... What were you wearing to the market?
Probably a dress, something that's probably like sturdy cotton, so that for a child to wear, but that is still quite fine.
Mm-hmm. And now it is marred with orange.
Oh, crapple, crap.
And he just shoves
She's like starts trying to rub it off.
He shoves his hand over your mouth. Like,
You can see the colour bleeding across the dress. What a good boy.
Good boy, checking you alright. But I wait to hear if the guards run past.
The guards are walking through, following the trail of destruction, asking people questions. Yes, I can see they have been here. Where did they go? Excuse me, sir. Have you seen the kid that causes trouble? That one. And people are trying to be as helpful as they can. After a while, though, they do pass.
And I remove my hand from her. I'm sorry that they might have hurt you.
Oh, I understand, but we need to move because I think we're sitting in orange dye and my mother is literally going to kill me when I've ruined another dress.
Your dress is now almost completely orange from the dye.
Oh, too late. Maybe I can convince her I bought a new one.
You have more than one dress?
Yeah?
Oh, that's nice. And he stands up, and he's looking over the barrels just briefly. It seems to be all good.
It sounded like they were looking for you, not for me. If they were looking for me, they would have just asked for me by name.
What is your name?
Oh, I'm Talia. What's your name?
Bob.
From the nearby market, you hear your mother's trill voice, Talia. it shouts, Talia!
Like, and Bob, like, he can't help it, but he, out of a panic, shifts into tabaxi form and his ears go down low as he sort of slinks back behind the barrels. Is that your mom?
Yeah.
She seems really angry.
Yeah, probably. I'm not supposed to be out here. I'm supposed to be at home.
Why aren't you allowed outside?
Oh, well, I'm allowed outside. I'm just supposed to always have an escort.
What's an escort?
Somebody with me to, protect me from bad guys and kidnappers and thieves and hoodlums and men with pointy teeth.
As you say that, Bob's like trying to like push his teeth like so they flatten a little bit. It's like, what have you particularly good kidnapping material?
I mean, my mom has a lot of money. So I think she's just afraid that people will try and use me to get money. I don't know. She's really paranoid all the time. But I don't like coming out here with my guards because they're just boring.
They're boring? You have your own guards?
I mean, they're like my mom's guards, and I like borrow them. But she was busy with like meetings and stuff today, so they were with her. So there wasn't anybody to take me to the market. And I wanted to go, so I went. But clearly that was a terrible idea because now she's going to be really mad at me.
Only if she finds you.
Oh, it's only a matter of time.
No, honestly, we can go to... I know a place just on the outside of the village. We can go there.
I mean, is it safe?
Talia, I swear, if you're not in front of me in 5 minutes, there will be trouble!
Oh, I really have to go. I'm really sorry.
It's okay, you can say I kidnapped you. Our show is where I sleep.
I don't know if that's really a good idea. How about instead you meet my mom, and
No,
we
that
can.
sounds terrifying.
But then we can say that I came out here with you, so I wasn't by myself.
Do you think that will work?
Probably not, but it's better than her screaming at me. She'll be very polite while you're there because she doesn't like to seem terrible in front of strangers. She has to be a lady.
And he sort of looks down at the like this mucky mess that he is. He's like, okay. After you. He's not like he doesn't want to go to your mum.
Oh. Okay, yeah, gotta rip the band-aid off, right? It's better to do it now. If I just keep avoiding her, it's just gonna get worse, I think.
And he sort of like shivers and turns back into an elf, like, okay, like, what does your mum prefer? Elves, humans, orcs?
I mean, she's an elf.
Okay.
That's why I've got these. And she points to her like little pointy, like her half-elf ears. She's like, see?
Ah, okay. And he literally, it's like he stretches his ears physically by hand. So he's like, okay, I'm ready.
Oh, very elfy. Okay. Oh, this is gonna be great. This is gonna be good. It's gonna be fine. Okay. And she like freezes and like looks at her feet. And then like takes one step forward and is like, oh, okay, we're moving.
It's okay.
When you look at your
back. And he starts pushing you forward.
When you look at your feet, you can see they are covered in mud. This orange clay.
Oh, crap.
What's wrong?
I ruined my shoes, too.
Oh, that's okay. I don't have shoes.
And she looks at his feet. Oh, I see.
It's easier.
Don't your feet hurt?
No, my feet don't hurt at all. Sometimes they get a little chilly, but otherwise it's fine.
You're gonna come back with me to home, and I'm gonna get you some socks at least.
Socks? No, I can't take any more gifts. You already gave me some bread. But thank you.
Okay.
Now let's go say hi to your mom.
Okay.
It's okay. She's not mad at me.
Yet. And Talia starts walking towards her mother.
He looks slightly nervous by that, but he'll quickly catch up and follow you anyway, because he's probably still a bit shorter than you. Does it help if I look older?
Oh yeah. I mean, if you looked like a grown-up, then at least I was out here with a grown-up.
I can't necessarily look like a grown-up. I can get a bit taller.
I mean, anything's better than nothing, I guess.
Okay. And you see him just sort of stretch a little bit, just above your head. It's like, okay, maybe about there. That'll do. I know exactly where you're going with this.
And she heads out into the... She like straightens out her dress and realizes she's orange and is just kind of like, oh goodness. And just kind of walks in as ladylike a fashion as she can muster, covered in orange mud, towards where she hears her mother screaming.
You cannot hear your mother screaming anymore, but you can see her standing atop a box. She's not the tallest woman, your mother, but she looks very tall right now. Even if she was standing on the floor, you fear she may look very tall right now.
Is that her?
Yeah. And I imagine it's that Talia's mother is such a petite woman that at 13, Talia's probably at least as tall as her. But when she sees her mother, she seems very tiny.
Bob just strides forward with you, looking quite happy with himself.
Your mother, as locks eyes on you, you see them burn with a ferocity for a second, and then they sort of freeze, as though ice has taken them. And as you approach... Good morning, Talia, dear. Who is this wonderful guest you have brought before me?
I am her escort.
Bob!
Your
Bob.
escort, Bob.
Yeah.
That's me.
Bob came by for a visit, and you were gone, and I told Bob that I would take them to the market, and show them around, and that I thought it would be okay because I wouldn't be alone. Bob's very good with protecting things, and he is really good at getting away from trouble.
I am.
Perfect. I think I know a just reward for you, Bob.
I don't need a reward. It was nice to meet her.
Oh, but you do.
I do.
Oh, yes. Talia, your dress.
I was walking in between some of the stalls, and a barrel fell on me, and I'm very sorry.
I sewed the emblem on that dress for you myself.
I know. I sincerely apologize, Mother, for my clumsiness. I know it's not very ladylike behavior.
And your shoes, what happened?
But like I said, it fell kind of all over, and so my shoes got messed up too. But those I can probably wash, I think.
Welcome, Stalfire Wolf. You are now part of the alumni. You have a new chat badge and access to the hyper mote, and you may gift a reroll to either Alice or Kelly this week. I know just the thing for you, Bob. And she turns and takes you, starts walking. She just strides between the pair of you and starts walking, heading out of the market square.
And Talia follows behind, kind of in perfect step almost. She kind of falls right in line, like she always would. And I imagine that Bob probably falls right in line, like Talia does, right behind her. One might say almost like a mother duck and ducklings.
Is it cold out here, or is that just radiating off of your mother?
Oh, it's definitely shaking rage. Like, I think Talia knows the signs, the, like, tense shoulders, the overly accentuated chin up to the sky.
At the moment, you couldn't stretch your mother's back any straighter if you had a rack.
And Talia actually tries to almost emulate that, like, confidence, that, like, I know what I'm doing.
As she gets towards the edge of the village, she spots one of the pikemen standing by the main road. You there. Do me a favour and go and fetch Horace. Yes, milady. Yes, I will. Yes. Yes. I shouldn't leave the road unattended, ma'am. Should I? The guardhouse is only over there. Go now. Be quick. He picks up on the mood and runs.
Am I still here?
Yes, you fell into line with Talia.
Okay.
Talia, you would recognise the name Horace. Horace comes round to dinner quite often.
Yeah, does she know what Horace does?
Captain of the guard.
Has her mother ever requested for Horace before?
No. She invites him cordially to dinners and, events, but to summon him in the street?
And Talia just kind of falls back a little bit, so she's kind of next to Bob instead of slightly in front, and just says, I think I've made a terrible mistake. Yes, Mother. And she, like, hurries back forward.
Bob's just slightly wide-eyed, but he's very confused as to what is going on. He just thinks he's getting snogs.
Soon, Horace and the guard return. The guardsman returns and takes his place back on the pike, and Horace has come with his sword drawn. Milady Darkin, what's the problem? The pikeman ran as though there was... and then he picks up on the mood and puts his sword away and bows formally. Ah, excellent. Horace, or should I say Captain? Captain, I would like you to find an uniform that will fit this young person here. They wish to be an escort, and so I think you should reward them with a placement. Yes? Yes, milady. Give them the special treatment.
Is he talking about me?
I think so.
Silence!
I get new clothes?
The special treatment, Mom? Yes. Bob, congratulations, you have earned yourself a new job today.
A new job? I've never had a job.
Definitely the special treatment. Come, Talia.
Thank you. And he bows.
And Talia follows along with her mother, but she looks behind towards Bob.
He's waving.
And she's just like...
Without looking at you, your mother says, "A woman does not crane her neck or wave like a commoner."
Yes, ma'am.
And she marches you up to the back home. Bob, you would have been given a very rough time in the guard. They sometimes recruit from the prisons, and you can. I'm sure I will leave it to your imagination how a prisoner is treated as they become a guard instead of a prisoner. Thank you also everyone for all the bitties that are trickling in. Thank you. We're up to about 150 in dribs and drabs. So thank you very much, everyone. I can't complain. I wish I had a cup that these could all go in somewhere, because I'm sure it would look quite pretty. Talia, why don't you tell us? Your mother doesn't shout at you that day. She doesn't shout at you that week. How instead does your How instead does her disapproval become known to you?
So, it's a combination of all of Talia's least favorite things. So, her mother, like, gives her basically the cold shoulder. There's very little chit-chat. She's assigned kind of extra lessons to the point where every minute of her day is filled with some task that she must immediately be doing, or some new tutor that's coming through that she just can't stand. Another like old stuffy person who she's just like, oh, why am I sitting here learning about maths?
Worse than maths. Worse. You are a lady of the court. You are expected to remember the dates of important events, but you are not expected to understand any of the military tactics or anything else that come along with it. So you would spend hours upon hours memorizing dates.
Ugh. And I think her mother makes her try to repair the dress, which she knows is fruitful. It's pointless. There's no fixing it. But Talia needs to learn how to be more delicate with her things and with her needlework. And so if she's not memorizing dates, she's trying to fix clothes.
I think your mother
and
would...
ultimately is trapped at home.
I think your mother would possibly pair you with one of the village elders. The elders often fall into important roles just from account of living so long and gaining experience. And one of the best seamstresses in the village is the old lady, known only really as Griselda, but people just call her Madam G. So I did that. She speaks in a monotone all the time. You must use the thimble to stop the needle from striking the finger. Even that's putting too much resonance in the tone.
And I think Talia's even tried kind of to interact with her and just ask, like, how is your day going? Tell me about new things in your life.
Today is a day I started with breakfast. It was bananas with some milk, and I then took station at my post where I made some trades with the local people, and they mostly had information about... And it just drones on and on and on. And because you ask once, the next time you appear, if you don't ask about her day, she starts telling you about her day. As though it's expected.
And it is just painful for Talia. It is literally all of the worst things.
How is the next interaction with your mother?
After the first week is over?
During the week. I imagine there's a few days where you are together but don't interact, if that makes sense. So, for example, you're at dinner, but if you go to open your mouth, you get the look.
And then I think it's one night, after a few days, one night that Talia heads to dinner, and she's actually kind of oddly there, kind of promptly on time, in her seat, wearing the proper clothes, kind of actually following all the rules that her mother normally pushes her into that she can't actually follow through with very easily. And that was and she goes to like, and her mother doesn't stop her. She's like, how was your day, Mother?
Most interesting, Talia.
I hope that is a positive, interesting.
Oh, yes.
Looks like we got a new friend.
Yes, indeed. A smile flickers her lip for just a second. Thank you very much for the raid, Damage Dice! Welcome, one and all! We are doing some flashback scenes into our characters' pasts. I was speaking with the church earlier, in fact, about your future.
Did they have any insights into what that should look like?
Oh yes, of course.
Sorry, my dog just broke open a toy and he's trying to eat all the fuzz out of it. I'm trying to get him to stop. And he's not behaving. Lay down. Just come here and lay down. Thank you.
I believe it's time you started to make decisions about your future, Talia.
Like what I'm going to be when I grow up kind of decisions?
Oh, I thought it was obvious from your training what you shall be. No. I mean you are approaching marriageable age. We should start considering your suitors.
Oh. Is that what the church had to weigh in on?
They agreed with me, but also said there was a lot to be said for devoting oneself to the church.
Is that a suitable alternative to suitors?
Talia, you understand our family history. We are now mayors of only a very small village. You are a valuable link to a much nobler family, much nobler wealth.
Yes, but I have also gone to worship every weekend since I was a small child. And I'd definitely connect with the gods and feel their presence in my life. And I would like to know what the best way is for me to serve them and live my life in a holy manner.
No. Griselda will begin some new tuition next week. Will increase your hours. She will start teaching you about womanhood and the things that come along with that. Some education into your expectations as a wife. She's really quite knowledgeable.
Oh. Yeah, she does have a lot of knowledge to share. If not enthusiasm.
She's most enthusiastic. She is a strong contributor to the village. Everything she does makes the village better in some way. In fact, you could say that her long-standing contributions are part of the foundations of the village. Is your dress fixed yet?
Sadly, no, Mother. I can't get the orange to come out. I've fixed the tears as best I can, but there's just no hope for the cloth.
I'm sure you'll find a way.
I was able to clean my shoes, and she kind of moves one foot to the side, and you can see a shoe that still has some orange staining on it, but is mostly clear.
Indeed. Yes, more time with Griselda will indeed be most beneficial.
Yay!
Reginald reports that your lessons haven't been going so well.
Oh, I mean, my history lessons are factual. But I feel that some variation could assist.
Hang on a minute. What do you mean they're factual?
I'm doing a lot of memorization of dates and events. Lots and lots of facts.
Yes. In my temper last week, I hadn't thought of that. He's teaching you the same way he taught me. Unfortunately, it's no way to rule, rather to serve. I will find you a new teacher next week.
Oh! That would be wonderful. I would appreciate,
There's nothing to appreciate, Talia. This is not a reward or a punishment. You are being trained to become a lady.
Of course. I was just going to say that I appreciate the opportunity to continue to expand my skills and knowledge, Mother. One should always be grateful for the opportunities that are gifted to them, especially those of us who have so much privilege.
Considers you for a long moment. Yes. Mist suddenly covers everything. It's as though it wells from the table, filling the room, and you are back lost in the mist again. Alice, Bob, do you remember entering Talia's servitude?
He remembers being called to service one day, mainly because her main guard was laid off. It could be a year or so later even. Something happened, and he's now pulled in to take over just for the day.
Take over what for the day?
Being her escort, effectively.
Horace uses a very different voice when speaking to Lady Darken than he does you, Bob. Right, you horrible recruit! Today we've got a special assignment for you. One could say it was written in the stars, from the way we recruited you. Stand up straight.
I am standing up straight. This is what I look like. He has not changed from his elf form since he entered as a recruit.
Your spear. Stand to attention. You would know what standing attention to looks like.
Yeah. And he does.
You're receiving important news. It does a soldier well to stand to attention when receiving important news. And if you encounter Lady Darken and the room or the air feels cold, I recommend you stand to attention, focus on a point 2 inches up and 1 inch left of her face, and answer yes to anything she says. Is that clear?
I think so.
Good.
He's also definitely told this guard captain he's 14, maybe 15 years old. In reality, he's probably now 12.
You're old enough and ugly enough to start fending for yourself. So I won't tell you exactly how to answer, but for God's sake, if it feels cold, do not say no.
Okay. I will try to be more serious.
You are walking with the Lady Darken. You
Which
see...
one?
Doesn't matter which bloody one. You see an archer on a rooftop. What do you do?
I say, look, an archer, and then I just sort of, I'm their shield, right? Is that right? I know there's something like that.
Right. Lady Darken is dead.
Why is she dead? I didn't do anything.
Exactly. When
But
you
that's
see
what
an
I
archer on the roof, Bob, you get yourself between the lady and the archer as quick as possible. You get them to get down. Then you signal to the other guards that there is an archer on the roof. If the archer on the roof believes that their cover is blown, they will fire.
But I did say I'd stand in front of them.
After you said you call that the archer is on the roof. Action first, warnings after.
Okay.
You've done well in your training, lad. You should be alright.
I hope so. I wouldn't want to die on the
Stop
first day.
that! Yes, sir. No, sir. Those are acceptable responses. You are about to enter the service of the Lady Darken. It would be good for you to remember correct answers and not letting your chin flap.
He stays silent.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Then he can't help his mouth.
The captain gets right in your face and bellows at you. This time, no hesitation! Yes, sir!
Yes, sir.
You're going to be trouble,
And
Bob.
He holds a steely gaze. He does have a plain look, and his voice just gets that little bit deeper. Just, yes, sir.
Once more.
Yes, sir.
You do well to remember it.
He's so close to getting, remember what? But he sort of stops himself before he
Right.
does anything to.
Lad, like I say, you've done well in your training. Just don't let that jaw of yours get you in trouble. Look, there's a spot on your armor. Shine it. I'll give you a ride up to the house.
Should I not talk at all?
It'd be good to get you some practice.
Just so don't. I must protect the lady. So be suspicious of everyone.
Yes.
Okay. Then I will.
You do well to learn to listen as well. I imagine for the post you'll be receiving, that would do you some good. I imagine there would be some frustrations. Not that I said this to you, mind. If I hear word that you've been telling the Lady Darken that I heard there'd be frustrations in their household, I will be having your ears off.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Better. Get polishing, and he jars the horses into action. He just starts talking about general things that you have to do as a guardsman. Make sure you're up on time every day. Make sure you're doing that. And it starts to sound almost like a father speaking to a son, rather than a watch captain speaking to a watchman.
And it starts to sink in for Bob as well. I think it's the realism of it on the ride, he's realising.
Now, last things last, always make sure you fill out your pay slips and tax slips correctly, and don't let anyone see them or copy them. My bloody brother, who's a couple of towns over, took all my wages last year as tax expenses. I got landed with the whole bloody fee.
Oh no, what happened? Are you a twin?
Yes, we're twin brothers, and he got me for fraud. Took my identity.
You should always be careful with your identity. You never know who could turn into you.
Exactly. We're here. Remember what I said, if the air turns cold, focus on a point. Forget what I'm saying about if the air turns cold. When you're speaking to the Lady Darken, focus on a point 2 inches up and 1 inch left of her eyes. Whatever she says, just say yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Say it after me.
Yes, ma'am.
There you go. Don't go calling her sir. You'll be out on your ear before you know it.
Remember that.
Go on then, get in there. Good luck, kid.
Thank you. And he just sort of hops off and straightens himself up. He's about 4 years older than since Talia last saw him. And it's very much, he looks like an elf, but he has tweaked himself so he doesn't look like the elf on the day, but he has not changed from an elf since then, not in front of anyone.
Talia, when Bob gets interviewed, how do you see the interview? Are you invited to stand during the interview, or do you instead sneak a peek? Do you eavesdrop?
I think at this point, since it is such time later, Talia's getting really close to being kind of an actual lady of the house. So her mother kind of drags her everywhere, to every meeting and every boring thing, and the only time Talia ever gets a moment's peace is when she's at the temple.
Oh, I can hear it
and
already.
so she spends as much time at the temple as possible learning from the priests of all the different gods there, because it's a way to get away from sitting through another meeting.
Oh yeah, and your mother's doing right at 2 p.m. we are meeting with Master Rook about the grain stores and making it through the winter. At 3 p.m. we are meeting with the Seamstresses Guild, as they are now calling themselves, about forming a business company as though they weren't just providing a service and that wasn't good enough for them. At 4 we meet with the Circle of the Elders to talk about the new thatching, I think they call it tiling, service that is coming in and how it will affect the thatchers. They're all unhappy, but the tiling seems to be greatly beneficial, especially after the fire last year. At 5 we are going to be having dinner with Horace, that's the captain to you. And she's just prattling off this list to you. But first, you are going to require to start moving on your own. Visiting the village, visiting people in the village and discovering problems, etc.
Oh.
I've had Horace send up a recruit to become your personal guardsman. They will stick to you like glue. Where you go, they will go. They will have a room attached to your room. They will follow you wherever you step, be it our house, be it the church, be it the town. If you give them the slip, you will be seriously letting me down, and you remember what happened last time.
Understood, Mother. And Talia actually looks, and there's like the 4 guards that basically have the exact same position she just described for her mother in all different corners of the room. Understood.
Good. Come now, take a seat, look demure.
Yes, ma'am.
Demure, not like a warrior.
And she kind of, before her feet were kind of flat on the ground, and instead she kind of like shifts a little, crosses her ankles, puts her hands in her lap.
Excellent. Bernard, send him in. And soon, Bob, you are escorted through a very fine-looking house to a small sitting room where there sits who you will immediately recognize as a few years older Talia, and the Lady Darken.
And he tries not to make eye contact. Mind you, she won't recognize him anyway, but he tries not to make eye contact with her. Even though, like, he smiles at the fact that she's in the room. But you can see him calculate, like, 2 inches up, slightly to the left. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Horace tells me your name is Bob.
It is.
Excellent. Bob, what makes you want to become a bodyguard rather than a watchman?
I think I'm good at it. I will know. I have a sharp eye, and I know how to track if anything goes wrong.
She just writes down your answer. And what special abilities do you think you would bring to the role?
I was a thief. I know what they're looking for.
Ah, you were once a criminal yourself. Wonderful program Horace has in turning you folk around. Congratulations, he must trust you to send you up.
Thank you, Mom.
You see her underlined twice.
If needs be, I can get you or your daughter to a safe place and lead them astray. If there were any...
You will take my daughter to a safe place and lead her astray?
No, I will lead the men or women who are after her astray.
Oh, yes, I see. More notes.
I am sorry, I am not good with words.
That's fine. Do you have any learning? Have you studied?
No.
Numbers, words?
No, I cannot read.
I'll have to change that. Talia, that may become one of your first assignments.
Yes, Mother. A good and worthy task, though.
How old are you? You seem young.
I am 16, ma'am.
Interesting. Horace put down 15.
I turn 16 next week.
Ah. Makes another small note. Talia, do you have any questions for your new companion?
And she kind of frantically tries to think of something that will impress her mother. And and she will just kind of look towards Bob and say, have you, what was, the part of your training that you felt you most excelled while working with Horace?
And he doesn't take his eyes off of your mother. He's like, I am quick, I am agile. That is where I excel.
Indeed. Horace has already told me of your particular skills. I'm somewhat impressed. You've done quite well. So the positions of the role. You will be expected to protect Talia in any situation.
Understood.
You will be expected to stay at the house in a room adjoining hers, so you can be on hand if there is any issue.
You can see like just a glint of confusion, but it's understood.
You will be with Talia nearly 24 hours a day. When she wakes, you will wake. When she goes to bed, you will go to bed. If she attends a dinner, you will attend a dinner.
Understood.
You will be expected to take the precautions that you see fit for the situation to ensure her safety.
Understood.
Oh, I can see you've bought your own armor. Come along. We have to go and speak to. Master Rook about the grain stores.
Yes, Mother.
And
Talia
almost instantly is beside Talia.
Oh, very good.
And Talia waits for her mother to rise first, and then stands. And as her mother heads out the door, she falls in line right back to her mother's right.
Your mother whirls around as she opens the door. Ah, yes, this too, Bob. Talia is probably the most precious asset we have, our tie to all sorts of other families and other things. Anyone and everyone could try to con her or try to steal her away for political gain. You ought to be suspicious of everyone.
Don't worry, I am.
Good, even when you're in this house.
Agreed. You're not sure if that's an agreeing with her or being suspicious of everyone in this house.
It was not a debate, Bob. I don't expect you to agree or disagree. Talia, you start to feel the air turning a little cold for a second.
Understood.
Good. Come then, the grain stores.
And I think as they walk, Talia might even kind of, much more subtly than she used to, she's kind of learned when her mother's paying attention and when she isn't. She'll kind of adjust where Bob is standing to be exactly the right distance or position, and she'll be like, right there, that's good.
And he's just like, thank you, Talia. And keeps walking.
So, Talia, for the next scene, do you remember when you devoted yourself to the church instead of your mother's plans?
Yes, actually, I think it probably wasn't long after this moment. because for as long as Bob has known Talia, he's known her to be devout. And I think unlike when she was 13 or so, when she was kind of trying to find a way out, really that trying to find a way out inspired her to spend more time at the church. And as she was there, she learned more and more. And there was a day when she and Bob headed to the church, and it just so happened that she arrived as the only one there with any kind of healing knowledge right as a guard patrol arrived that had been severely injured by some kind of animal in the woods. And to her, that was this kind of fated moment where clearly something bigger was at play that brought her there right when she needed to be. And she chose after that day to devote herself to the goddess of fate, who she felt had been in contact with her for a long time.
Yeah, a familiar, a kinship almost. Could you then introduce us to the scene that this took place?
So this was one of those days where normally every day Talia kind of began with a visit to the church. Bob would, after a while, maybe even poke fun at her for how regimented this was. But it was weird because this day she felt it was the evening and she realized she had nothing to do. And so she just kind of decided to go. And she arrives, she walks in and says a prayer, and as she begins to stand, the main doors of the church swing wide open, and there's two guardsmen carrying a third in their arms. He had been mauled by something, and they carry him in, and she has this moment of, this is why I felt I needed to be here today, because she looks around and the women who had been training her were not there. And so she immediately rushes to help instead.
There was a beast in the woods. We were doing a routine check out to Griselda's place. She's not moving about anymore. And I think it must have been a boar or something straying too close to the village.
It had to have been something huge.
He's been gutted, Mom. I don't know how long he has to take.
There's a lot of blood here. I have to tell you. And she looks around and she realizes, like, she's pretty much her and Bob are pretty much the only ones here. And she's like, this is...
Bob sort of just takes a step closer and just puts a hand on her shoulder, almost like a calm down, it's okay sort of thing.
Ignorant of this, the guard's like, what should we do with him?
Bring him over here. And she heads off to a side chamber that is probably reserved exactly for this purpose. There's a not really a bed, but a platform, and
perhaps a mahogany table, which didn't start off as mahogany.
Yes. And she's like, bring him over here. Let's put him up on the table. Let's see what I can do. But boys, I gotta tell you, give all your prayers for this one. We're gonna need it.
Once they've got him on the table, they immediately take their swords out, place them on the ground in front of them, and kneel, praying, one either side.
And Talia kind of removes any scraps of fabric that are in the way so that she can get a good look at things, and that is when she too takes a moment to kind of say a silent prayer. And she feels comforted.
In this moment, the prayer would indeed give you a great deal of comfort. I wouldn't say that you become a puppet or anything like that, nor would you be the glove on a guiding hand. But there is certainly some sort of aid coming to you. You can feel strength through the prayer. Perhaps that connection which we are so familiar with now, with older Talia, for the first time it feels as though there is nothing between you and the sky, and the sun is basking on you.
And while she feels this flowing through her, you can almost see her posture shift from her previous nerves. And even when Bob had comforted her, she was still clearly nervous but comforted. But instead she stands straight and tall and prepared, and immediately begins her work to heal this man without misstep and without hesitation, in a way that even Bob may never have seen her work before, especially when she was doing things alone.
He'll just watch intently every now and then, like looking around him, but he watches intently.
Take us through the process, Talia. What does Bob see?
He sees her kind of clean the wound. This man has a huge gash in his side. It's one of those things where you're surprised that you're not actually seeing body parts coming out of him inside, because it is so large. And she actually breathes a sigh of relief when somehow miraculously it seems that this has missed all of his major organs and hasn't caused nearly as much damage as one would expect. She goes through and she may even ask, like, motion for Bob to bring her water and cloth, something that he's done before, and has kind of fallen into the routine at this point.
The other two men praying would also be glad to help fetch anything you need fetching if Bob's away when you request it.
Yeah, she may even order them to just in the far room, just like this one, the other side of the chapel, there are boxes of herbs on the top left shelf. Do not grab the ones on the top right shelf. That could kill him. But grab the ones on the top left and bring them back.
Top right shelf.
Top left.
Top left shelf.
Yes.
Top left shelf. Top left shelf.
Bob will watch him go, just to make sure.
And the person sort of is making letters with his hands to make sure that he gets the right one, and heads out and returns with the herbs you are expecting.
She's like, "Oh, good man, good job, excellent." And she begins to make some kind of like poultice in one hand, and she actually holds a needle in her other, a large, scary-looking needle over a flame to sterilize it. And she begins to kind of sew this. She starts to move in, and she sees that the man still might be a little conscious. He's stirring, and she's just like, and she just motions for Bob, grab that stick.
Yeah, he coughs, and then immediately cries in pain.
And she immediately shoves this kind of wooden bar in between his teeth, and it's just like, bite. Hard.
He doesn't need telling. He starts biting. You can just hear like
as she begins to sew him back up, trying to keep her stitches as neat as she can. This is one of the few times that she's found Griselda's training to finally be worth it. For some reason, Talia still cannot sew a dress back together to save her life, but
as his arms come up, the two men either side rush forward to grab them and pin them to the table so you can work on a somewhat still target. One of them puts his hand, leans his weight on his shoulders so as to keep him as still as possible for you.
And Talia motions ahead to Bob to get his legs and do the same.
Bob just quickly but quietly moves, and he holds them in place, but if they're particularly violent, he's going to sit on them. He's going to get on the table and just sit and hold either side of the table.
And as she sews him back up, they're kind of perfect, even stitches. Very clinical, very precise, shockingly perfect for how torn up this flesh is. And she adds the poultice on top, which is designed mostly to soothe the pain. And she looks at the men and says, "Make sure he doesn't scratch it off."
The man, you've sewn up his wound, you've cleaned it. He's still bleeding heavily. He's going to die.
And she
hear a male voice whispering in your ear. There's no time to explain, Talia. You need to say the following words after me. Make these gestures with your hands as you do so. And the voice takes you through the words and symbols. Do you mind, Hildy? The words and symbols which are required to perform the heal spell, the 6th level healing spell.
And she does it, and this would look and sound very odd to Bob, who has seen her do healing work before, but nothing ever like this. Nothing that seemed like magic. It was always just classic healing. Meanwhile, the guardsmen would probably not know any better. They would be too distracted to notice, but Talia follows instinctively the instructions as perfectly as she can.
I mean, it'll take several goes. The first time you do it, it's not quite right. The voice says, "Nearly there. We need to try one more time. This time, just crook your finger just a little more. You pronounce that word Ulduar rather than Ulduar. It's a subtle difference, but important."
And she tries again.
And after a time, you learn the spell. Heal.
And she has this kind of moment of clarity when it actually clicks, and she feels it differently. Before, it was just kind of motions and words, and she was probably doing it so many times that she was even having these moments of, why am I doing this? I'm doubting this. I don't understand. But she keeps going, and then finally there's this moment where it clicks, and she feels that connection open up, and that barrier between her and the world above fall away, and she feels this tingle of power through her hands as she finishes the motions, and rests a hand on this man who is near death.
And this is an unusual gift for a paladin to learn. You will learn later, but for now, behind you, there is a slight applause. As one of the women, the main woman who trained you, stands impressed. Who is she? What does she look like?
She's probably in her late 40s. She's actually surprisingly young for an elder priestess of the church, but she is a priestess. She is wearing robes. She has her holy symbol around her neck. Her hair is pulled back in a tight, clean bun. But despite the severity of her clothes and her hair, she just looks kind. You look at her and you just see her kindness and her warmth, very opposite of many of the tutors and people that Talia has had elsewhere.
Congratulations, Talia. That was most impressive. I do not know that I could have cast the same spell.
I didn't know that I could. It just...
I will be, We won't do any studies today. I'm going to head up to the house, though I suggest you stay here and continue to tend to this man. After all, he is your charge now. You've done such a good job. I would not want to take any of the credit.
Yes, priestess. I will see him through to the end as you taught me.
Indeed. Indeed. And when you finally return to the house later, the priestess and your mother are still arguing.
And I think Talia, she comes in the front door very quietly at this point. She knows every creak that this house makes and every way to avoid every sound. Despite her mother's knowledge, Talia and Bob got very good at sneaking out of the house. Specifically, Talia learned how to sneak out of the house with Bob's help over the years. And she hears this... she hears her mother's voice raised. And while this other woman is clearly angry, she seems much more calm and matter of fact. It definitely sounds to Talia like there is not much arguing with the priestess, as much as her mother is trying to do so. And rather than immediately go into the room, she looks at Bob and just goes, and sticks an ear to the door.
I'm telling you, she cast Heal. Heal is a 6th level spell which most clerics never master. And she did it with no training and no guidance. I would say it was not possible unless I had seen it with my own eyes. She tried several times, learning the words as if they were gifted to her by the goddess of fate herself.
Bob holds up like a high five as he's pressed over the other. Like he's turned into his tabaxi now that it's just him. And he's pressing his ear up against the door like.
And your mother responds, she is the lady of this house, the last lady. We have no sons, we have no heirs. We have no way to make any more heirs since her father's disappearance all those years ago. She is my last hope for the continuation of this family. Do you expect me to just let it die?
Bob rolls his eyes.
And Talia just does the like thing that she would never do with anyone around except for just Bob.
Yeah, like he pulls like his scarf up, just trying not to laugh.
The priestess's voice reaches a trill range which you have never heard it before, as she says, "I expect you to go with the will of the gods, no matter what they are or how they inconvenience you!" And you hear marching towards the door, which you listen by.
And
Even Bob panics.
And Talia and Bob, Talia motions for Bob to dive back into like the kitchen.
He just, as he leaps, you see him go from tabaxi to elf again to the normal light, and you hear like a crash as he just disappears through this door.
And Talia slides in much more quietly, closing it behind her with a gentle click.
You hear the study door slam so hard it rattles back against the wall, and then the same with the door going out to the towards the chapel again.
And Talia motions to Bob, and she's like, "We came in through the back, okay?"
Of course. I don't is she happy about it, or is she not?
I think the priestess has decided that I'm going to join the church, and I think Mother isn't too happy about it. But hopefully she will be not happy about it at the priestess, and she will be not take it out on us.
Why would you take it out on me?
Well, we're a unit.
Okay. But don't tell her I'm not 17. Or 18 now, technically. I lose track. I think I'm supposed to be 18 now.
I don't even know anymore.
Me neither. I know I'm technically roughly around 13. But, you know. Okay.
And Talia just kind of straightens up and walks in and is just chatting with Bob, like, "Oh yeah, and so this happened at the, that funny thing that happened at the market. Ha 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 ha."
And Bob's like, "What's funny thing?"
We're pretending.
He looks like he's gonna try and laugh, but he can't. And he's like, "Okay." And straightens up his uniform. Man, as his mother.
You hear the door to the study close, is the word I'm going to use. It doesn't click, but also it doesn't sound as though it stays closed.
And Talia's just going to walk out of the kitchen into the main hall,
You can see
acting like nothing is amiss.
You can see the door to the study where Bob had his interview is broken. She slammed it so hard she broke the door. It no longer sits on its hinges.
Okay, you're going first.
Bob, I walk in front of you. I always have to go in first.
No, not when there could be danger, but this is your kind of danger, not mine.
Oh, boy. I mean, I have to go find out what just happened, don't I? I mean, we gotta know, right?
I'll be right behind you. And he just starts to, push you in delicately.
And she, ugh. And she doesn't... She goes and she goes to knock on the door, but as it's kind of creaking on the hinges, she just knocks on the wall next to the door.
When you get close to the door before you knock, you can hear a soft sobbing from the other side.
And Talia's gonna turn to Bob and say, "Maybe you should stand guard at the door."
You don't want me to come in and talk to her?
I think this might be a conversation I have to have alone.
I was always told to be by your side.
And to guard my back. Guarding the doors, guarding my back.
Okay. Then I will stay out here.
I will make sure to call you if I need anything.
Scream if you need me. And he just sort of opens the door for you.
And Talia very quietly kind of peeks ahead in the door and just says, Hi, Mother. We're back from... Bob and I are back from our visit to the church, and we wanted to let you know that we're home.
Yes, interesting, actually. I just received a commendation from the priestess about your actions today at the church. It seems you've performed quite the feats over there.
Yeah, it was surprising. A man came in with a terrible wound, and as much as I tried to save him, none of my training was working.
Yes, apparently
and then
you performed above and beyond what they expected, what some of them are even capable of. It's most impressive.
I think it is a gift.
Yes. I argued with the priestess, but that doesn't stop her from being right. You are to enter the service of the church.
And Talia's just kind of like shook. Because this is... Her mother has spent her entire life preparing her for a very different future. She's like, if that is what the gods require of me, then I will gladly give my life to the church. Although... Who will take care of us?
The gods, dear child, the gods.
Is there anything that you require of me, Mother?
You cannot give me a noble prince, Talia. But that is something that I have to come to terms with. Being a lady, as you know, has certain responsibilities as well as perks, and one of those is acting for the good more than acting for personal gain. I owe the priestess an apology.
I'm sure she will graciously accept and appreciate it. I hope you know, Mother, that while we haven't always agreed on my time and my efforts, that the reason I am drawn to such a profession is because you taught me that everything that we do for the people in our service.
Oh, please,
People that we
Talia.
serve.
You will no longer be able to take the lessons of a lady. Your time will be taken up with the church, but if there's one lesson which I should tell you, which I would have normally told you on your wedding day, is that it doesn't matter if you are right or wrong as long as you are always right. It doesn't matter what you do, you just have to be assertive and do it. Never try at anything. If you want something done, get it done.
Yes, Mother.
And from that day, your relationships change. Rather than trying to train you, your mother lets the church do that. And instead, you start spending social time with her. I imagine at first it's a little awkward as she starts inviting you to, when she has a spare half an hour, she invites you to tea. Or, as you get older, even to drink some wine with her in the evenings, as she talks about her problems. She's spoken to you with problems before, but they're usually problems in the village, and she's usually asking you to give the correct counsel. So usually before this happened, it would have been the grain manager wants to up his prices on the grain by 1 copper per sack, but the innkeeper wants to lower the prices so to attract more tourist trade. Give you some other facts. What would you do? Instead, now it's Jim at the inn just is always being so difficult. I swear sometimes the man is just an arse for the sake of being an arse.
As men tend to do, Mother.
Bob side looks at you from the room. But he straightens himself up. And he's probably looking like fairly young man now. Still that same elf. But, yeah.
Not just men, though. You should have heard Griselda. She's been refusing to leave her hut now for over... Gosh, it must be 6 months. Time just goes so quickly. Apparently, there are raiders in the forest that come through the mist, and she dare not be out unless they whisk her away to a magical land. The woman's gone mad, I swear.
I mean, those aren't... She's always telling stories, Griselda, but that's a new one.
Yes, honestly, I think this is just a new ruse because her gout's playing up.
Well, I mean, did she actually seem to, emote during these conversations? Because that would be more concerning than just a story,
Oh,
Griselda's never been
honestly, I
like that.
don't know. I haven't been to see her myself in some time. There is so little time. As she says that, she sort of looks at the clock and says, well, our little chat has been wonderful, but as you know, 2 p.m. on Wednesdays, I need to go and check the grain store. Weevils last week. Weevils, of all things, in our grain store.
Bob stands and just takes a step closer to Talia.
Who then shortly after stands in their normal pattern of things, the way that every single one of these conversations tends to end.
Talia, you do not need to pretend to be a lady anymore to please me. I've seen you swinging mace and sword in the field. At ease, soldier, she says mockingly.
Oh, Mother. For all your training, you couldn't train the trouble out of me. You always knew when I was up to something I shouldn't be doing.
She almost touches and says, I don't even have time to figure out what veil you are putting up around what mischief you have been up to, but my god, if it upsets the chef again, you are hiring a new one. I don't care if you're a lady or a churchgoer.
I will gladly take on that responsibility and do my best not to upset the chef.
Yes, I bet, and we shall eat sweets for the next 6 months. I must be off, and she leaves.
That went well.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mother's opening up now that she doesn't need me to be her salvation in the end.
Well, I mean, it's a good thing, I'd say.
Yeah. I'm just impressed that we still have kept your, hidden from her.
Oh, yes, everyone thinks I'm an elf here. It's fantastic.
And with that last words, Bob explodes in a puff of smoke. and you're back in the mist. This time, the mists form a scene much more similar to the one that you remember in Waking, as it forms the structures of the Amber Temple, the long corridor with the many closed doors, the passageway leading to the statue, and beyond the statue, which you will remember did strike you quite harshly with lightning. Except it stays as if behind a veil of mist. Like everywhere you look, there is just mist between you and what's going on. And beside you, you cannot hear Bob, Suri, and Sophie. And I believe it was it Bob or Sophie that was carrying Talia?
I was carrying Talia in a very Baby Bjorn-esque way.
So you can see Bob carrying you. And you hear the sounds of pauldrons and plate boots pacing beside you.
And she takes a moment, really disoriented by this vision of seeing Bob carrying her, and then hears the noise beside her and turns.
Much more alarmingly, you also see 10 men and women of various heights, all dressed in black, flipping knives in their hands, waving at the party. And the party don't seem to be reacting.
Does she recognize any of these figures or any of what they're wearing?
Their garb is very similar to the, they all almost look like various size imitations of the butler at Strahd's castle that you saw Sophie being escorted with in a dream. They all look like him, I guess. They all look at least to be like the same kind of elf. Perhaps the same lineage. There's a lot of striking resemblance. Male and female. And other.
And are they on the side of the mist with Talia, or are they also kind of shrouded in the...
They're also behind that mist. You can't truly see them. Beside you, the paladin that was pacing towards you says, I fear we do not have much time. The wizard wishes to train you, but we both know there's only one way that you have ever truly learned powerful healings. And your father turns and smiles at you.
I mean, I feel like every other time I've learned anything has been saving somebody's ass.
Funny you should mention that. The men in black armor start throwing knives at Bob, Suri, and Sophie.
And Talia panics and she begins to almost like... probably almost like bang at the mist, trying... And she's like, I have to get back there, you can't...
Like you said, you often learn when you have to save someone's ass, so... I am merely here waiting with you until an ass needs saving.
So rather than, have preventative measures like backup, you're gonna let my friends just struggle?
You sound like Griselda.
We both know that I don't sound like her. I actually have intonation in my voice.
I meant... Never mind, it's not appropriate. First of all, there is a healing word.
Okay.
You already know of a healing word, correct?
Yes, I know I mean, I know a few. I don't...
The healing word, it can come as an action that you can use whilst fighting. It takes so little to utter. But this one will strike multiple targets. It's known, I believe, in the churches as a mass healing word. Usually reserved for clerics, but we both know you've always had a knack for these things.
You spend enough time around a church and other clerics and you pick up a few things.
Indeed. It looks like Bob is about to be knocked out. Perhaps you could give him... We could try that healing word now.
Okay.
And he teaches you a healing word, mass healing word. What is the word?
I'm trying to think of something that isn't terribly cheesy.
Abracadabra.
Because remember, you're going to be stuck with this, whatever you pick, you know?
Oh, this is so much pressure.
Shazam. That's what Bob would pick. I just know what Bob would pick.
It can be a nonsense word.
Oh, I don't like this. Oh, this is so much pressure.
We could let's think of popular healing words.
Hang on a second.
Perhaps just long words which are have meanings IRL, like resplendence or something like that.
About salutem. Or salutem.
Is that Egyptian, Alice?
No, it's not. It's Latin.
Okay, I like that one. That sounds kind of fancy.
Salutem.
Okay.
And as you say that, you see each of the party gain a small amount of health.
Oh. Okay.
Towards the end, you notice when they strike the assassins die in one blow. That is not my doing. I believe this is some kind of test of Strahd's. I should really talk to you about that, actually.
Wait, you mean the assassins are some kind of test from Strahd?
Yes.
I thought they were a test from Mordenkainen.
No, Mordenkainen is merely assisting them to help. Although you'll notice he's not taking part in this fight. They are nearly butchering your friends. I think Suri's going to need another healing word.
And she just kind of waves a hand and says it again.
Everyone gains a small amount of health. Strahd may be familiar with your certain brand of magic.
What do you mean? That he just is prepared to know the spells that I have? Or that he can do something to prevent it? What?
You could say he's been studying the spells which I teach you. For a long time.
So he knows all of these healing kinds of magics as well?
Not so much. He's not able to use them. It is a gift from our gods. At least I hope. But do not
dwell on the dungeons when you come to Strahd's castle. Focus on defeating Strahd. That is the only way that this land can be free of him.
But I thought that we needed to get all of those things to help defeat him. Are we even ready for that?
You're getting very close. There's one more thing I need to teach you, and honestly, I don't know if you'll ever be able to cast this spell, but it's the most powerful spell I ever learned as a cleric. And he begins talking through with you the procedure to perform the spell Mass Heal, a 9th level healing spell.
And I think as he talks her through this, Talia realizes just how powerful this spell is. And she has this moment of kind of thrill and excitement of knowing that she knows how to do this, but as she tries to draw the power from it, she knows that she's vastly under. Like the store she has, the connection she has to her goddess is just too weak through this mist and the muck and through her own strength to be able to do this.
It's much easier, isn't it, when I can show you rather than just whisper in your ear?
It does go by much faster. Wait. And she has this moment of realizing that these flashbacks from today and seeing all these stories put together, that in each one, somehow her father was present, whether it was in a vision or a whisper in her ear or just an encouraging feeling of strength.
You know, I always thought you too would take the path of the cleric rather than the paladin.
Some days I wonder. But there are times when you have to heal after, and there are times when you must act before that is necessary.
Yes indeed.
I guess it's a little bit of you and a little bit of Mom.
Could say that. How was your mother?
She is adjusting. My service to the church was hard for her, as you can imagine. But she is accepting, and I think in some ways she's happier now that she has someone to talk to in me. I don't know if she's had that for a very long time.
Indeed. Now there are some words to go with Mass Heal, though honestly it doesn't matter what they are. I tend to recite our tenets. You focus very well, Talia. Very well indeed. But Bob and Sophie are both down. Suri is soon to fall. Though they have made good progress on these assassins, I think perhaps we can help them. Say with me the tenets.
Honesty. Don't lie or cheat. Let your word be your promise. And as she finishes, the first spark of energy comes through. Courage. Never fear to act, though caution is wise.
After this
Compassion.
line, he begins to fade.
Aid others, protect the weak, and punish those who threaten them. Show mercy to your foes, but temper it with wisdom.
At this, Shuri's eyes flick towards you, as though she heard you.
Honor, treat others with fairness, and let your honorable deeds be an example to them. Do as much good as possible while causing the least amount of harm. Duty, be responsible for your actions and their consequences. Protect those entrusted to your care, and obey those who have just authority over you.
As you say the last words, you see the dagger fly from Shuri's hand, taking the last assassin, who disappears in a swirling mist or smoke. To you, in the mist, you see the energy fly up through the ceiling. And each of your party members gains their health. And you pass out. It's some time until you wake. However, when you do wake, you are in a small room on a stone floor, and you can hear, before you move or do anything, you can hear Sophie, Shuri, and Bob talking. You hear Shuri say, No. You need to be a little flatter with your tone when you are telling the lie, otherwise people will know straight away. And then you hear Bob say,
So I have to do the arm movement like this?
No, you don't have to do that, you can just say it.
Okay, what shall I lie about?
Why don't we take the statue?
I think we should take the statue.
No, I mean about us not touching the statue.
Oh, I did not touch the statue.
Talia, you wake up.
Sure, I'm like halfway through, it's like, Sophie did not lick the sock of Talia! Sit up.
And she just looks, and does everyone look like they're in one piece?
They look all together in one piece, but they have the guiltiest expressions on their face.
Are you okay?
Oh boy. I'm fine.
We did not touch the statue.
For some reason, I don't believe you.
I told you it wouldn't work. Like, she looks over to Sophie.
And that is where we are going to wrap up this week's session.
Oh.
Alice drank like a pint of water before we started streaming, and it's been so funny to see her getting up.
Like 3.
So that will bring Talia up to speed with the events that happened last week. That is pretty much literally the whole episode.
Oh goodness.
We were
Did they actually get surprise heals? Did that actually happen?
Chat donated.
Oh, that's cool.
And I believe if you go and listen to it back, they also did hear you pray at the end. So you were a part of the episode even though you couldn't be here.
That's so cool. I'm so excited to watch it and be like, oh, look, that's me!
I think you're more going to be screaming, what are they doing?
There's going to be a lot of that. There's going to be a lot of that.
I feel like between Avery's fan art, the fact that you and chat have all mentioned licking to me, I'm pretty emotionally prepared.
Oh, you are not.
So, we're doing things a little differently this week. This week we aren't going to be doing our outros. Instead, we are going to run some credits, and we will be talking about our favourite parts of the show over in the Discord, in the channel. So please, if you want to come and be a part of the discussion and find out what our favourite parts of today's episode were, please head over to the Discord where we will be having a discussion right now. Until then, keep on evoking emotions, everyone, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.